What is going on, ladies, gentlemen, listeners of the Didn't Ask podcast? Welcome back to another episode of this right here podcast, the Didn't Ask podcast. How is everybody doing? Hope you had a good weekend. I certainly did. It was very eventful. I went to London with my granddad, and it was a fun time. We had a weekend filled with football stuff. Soccer, that is, for you Americans. And it was great. I'm not a big football guy, but he definitely is, so I made sure that he got to enjoy himself. We went to the Chelsea Stadium to do a Chelsea Stadium tour. It was really fucking cool to get into the locker rooms and changing room and stuff like that to see how high tech their whole facility really is and how much room and space there is for their own team. And it was cool to just sit in the dugout and sit in the player chairs and stuff like that. It was really fucking cool, even though, again, I don't really care about football that much, but it was fun to be there. And straight after, we went to the Fulham-Bournemouth game because that was going to be fun, you know, like, got to see a football match. My cousin was supposed to play, but he got injured last week, so he said he couldn't play, but, you know, it is what it is. We got to watch the game, and it was a very fun time. It was a very good match. It was a good back and forth, even though Bournemouth scored legitimately 1 minute into the game, which sucked really bad. But luckily, Fulham got to pull it back. And it ended in a 2-2, which, fine overall. But of course, we wanted to get that win for Fulham because that would mean that they would move up the rankings. Now they're, I believe, 11th, which isn't bad. They're like in the middle of the league right now, which is good overall, especially the Premier League, because the Premier League is fucking outrageous. It's filled with great teams like Manchester City, like Manchester United, like Chelsea. Arsenal's doing fantastic this season, even though last season they almost got relegated. And now they're doing absolutely fantastic. So there are so many good teams. So I'm very happy that they're doing well. And then hopefully they're going to stay up in this division and do another season in the Premier League, because that is very, very important for my cousin as well, you know. So yeah, that was a very fun weekend. Because of that, I had to miss the second Misfits boxing card, which kind of sad. And I still need to watch that back because I believe there were some fun fights on that card as well. And we're going to get a card soon, I believe. Because we're going to still get the Hasim Rahman Jr. versus Vitor Belfort. I believe it's going to be next month in November or something like that. And then, of course, we're going to have a card in January where KSI is going to face his next opponent. And then hopefully Logan Paul is also going to be on that card, fighting Dildo Dennis, but Dildo Dennis has a really weird contract right now where he is technically under contract with Bellator, but he seemingly is making deals outside of the company, and the company is not really liking that much. So we will have to wait and see what that's going to be. But the coming weekend is going to be fantastic as well for sports. We, of course, have the Grand Prix of Austin on Sunday, which is going to be great as well. We have UFC is back with Charles Oliveira versus Makhachev fight for the lightweight title. Honestly, I always get so confused with the UFC naming of the weights and stuff like that. I don't know, but I think it's the lightweight title. That's going to be a fun one. We, of course, have Aljamain Sterling taking on TJ Dillashaw on that card as well. And we have Petr Yan, of course, fighting Sugar Sean O'Malley, which is going to be fun as well. There are so many fucking good fights on that card. Bilal Muhammad is in the prelims. Dude, Bilal Muhammad's in the prelims. How is that even possible? And of course, Alexander Volkanovski is the backup fighter for the main title fight, which is interesting, especially since Charles Oliveira didn't make weight last time. So if he doesn't make weight this time, Volkanovski is the one that's gonna step in and fight for the championship, which is a very interesting thing. But I personally think that Charles Oliveira will make weight this time. I don't know what the fuck happened last time, but I feel like he's gonna make weight this time. And then the Islam Makhachev fight is gonna be very interesting. It's one of those fights that I don't really know what to think about. Like, I don't know who's gonna win that. Of course, Islam Makhachev is a sambo wrestler. He is really good on the ground. But then you have Charlie Olives, or Charles Oliveira, as we should call him, who is a grappling genius. Like, he can jiu-jitsu the hell out of everybody and find ways to submit you in what way, shape, or form. So it's going to be a very interesting fight, and I'm very much looking forward to that. But this is not a podcast where I talk to you about my weekends. It's not a podcast where I talk to you about the coming weekends. It's not a podcast where I talk to you about sports, really. It's a podcast where I talk to you about the most popular questions of the Reddit, both the Ask Reddit subreddit and the Am I the Asshole subreddit. So let's jump into the first question coming from RaiRaiLX. And they ask, non-Americans, what do you think every American person has in their house? Obvious answer is, of course, a gun. Because seemingly, if you watch TV, somehow every American has a gun. That was where my head went at first. But then I was thinking, like, is there another thing that Americans, most of them, or if not all of them, have in their house? And I was like, it's fucking ranch. Fucking every American that I ever see has fucking ranch and loves ranch. And I honestly don't really know what ranch is. So please tell me, because so you have the Americans have Doritos Cool Ranch, I believe that's what it's called, right? But over here it's called Cool American. It's not called ranch. We don't have ranch here, really. So it's really so again, that's why I don't really know what ranch is. And again, we call it Cool American, the Doritos flavor. So it's one of those things that we don't really have it here, and you can get it, of course. You can get anything if you want it, really. But we don't really have a ranch culture, so seeing that every American has ranch in their house to put on fucking pizzas or use with their fries or whatever, or on their burgers, seemingly fucking weird to me, honestly. But that would probably be the answer to the question asked by RaiRaiLX. Non-Americans, what do you think every American person has in their house? And I would probably say ranch sauce, because again, it is definitely not a thing that we have here, but seemingly it's very popular. Again, people using it with their pizzas, their burgers, their fries, and whatever. So it's a very interesting condiment, I should say. Now, I saw the first comment that I can see here on this subreddit, and this one comes from Kingdom-Com, and they say, a switch that when you flick it, turns your sink into a blender. And of course, they are talking about a garbage disposal. And that is a very interesting thing as well. It is such a weird thing that Americans have a thing in the sink that is basically a blender, like Kingdom Come is saying. We don't have that here. Like, maybe I've seen it once when I went to the US, but like other than that, I have never seen it anywhere else. So it's really weird to me that that is an actual thing and that many people in the US have. Because what's the real use of it? I guess it is to put your garbage in there and then it just fucking chops it up. But like, why the fuck is it in the sink? I don't really understand that. We in at least at my house, we have like this fucking strainer that you put on like the sink hole. How the fuck do you call that? Anyways, it's like a strainer. So then if you put food in the sink, it gets caught in the strainer, and then you take the strainer out and, empty the strainer in the garbage bag. Like, we don't have a garbage disposal that fucking shreds our food. Why the fuck would you need such a thing? But okay. I kind of get it. On one side I get it, on one side I don't. I don't know. It seems like a weird thing, because every time I watch a movie, somebody's hand or fork or whatever fuck goes in there, and then it just gets shredded and people die. So why the fuck would you have such a thing? So, going back to the question asked by RaiRaiLX, non-Americans, what do you think every American person has in their house? To me, it probably would be ranch sauce. But, like Kingdom Come has said, a switch that when you flick it, turns your sink into a blender, aka a garbage disposal, is a very interesting choice as well. Because I've never seen that anywhere else other than America. So, thank you for your question, RaiRaiLX. Moving on to the second question of today, coming from user ZLordBeats, and they ask, When women smile at you in public, what are you supposed to do? This is a very interesting question, but also it definitely is not. On the other hand, it's a very fun thing where I personally would say that the answer would just be smile back. Like, there is very little you can do in this situation. You can either be very awkward and, try to talk to her, but overall, I think that many people that just smile at you just do it to be nice and just want to smile at you in a sense. So I think that is, to me, not that big of a deal to just be like, okay, just smile. Maybe a small little wave, but to me, that seems to be too risky, right? Because when a person smiles at you, you don't necessarily know that they are smiling at you, so to speak. So to me, saying that, oh, I'm going to smile at the person and then wave, that seems a bit risky to me. Because maybe they're smiling at me, maybe they're smiling at somebody behind me, maybe next to me. I don't fucking know. There are people fucking everywhere. So I would probably just do the same and just be like, hi, hi, and just smile. And then maybe say hi silently. And then that would be the rest of my day. You know what I mean? Just thinking about how stupid I would act in such a situation. Now, again, the first comment is fucking brilliant. Coming from okay underscore yeah underscore dingus. And they say, immediately ball up like a threatened armadillo, attempt to roll away. That is a very good option. We like armadillos here. And that is a very, very cool thing to do, Just try to roll away. Ball up and roll away. Roll out, as Ludacris would say. There are some funny comments, but I think that one is the funniest. So, going back to the question asked by user Z Lord Speeds, when women smile at you in public, what are you supposed to do? Personally, I would say just smile back because I'm very hesitant. I'm very hesitant to think that they are actually smiling at me. So I would just be like, hi, hi, and then just continue with my thing that I was doing. But I do like the answer given by okay underscore yeah underscore dingus, who says, immediately bow up like a threatened armadillo and attempt to roll away. That is a very good option there. Okay, yeah, dingus. Thank you for your question, Z Lord's Beats. Moving on to the third question of today, coming from user Loving Nature 412, and they ask, what do you usually respond to a homeless person asking for money? Personally, I never like giving homeless people money, and it is really bad because it's one of those things where it's just like, oh, I can miss the money really, but like, it's always really hard in a situation because you don't really know what the homeless person is doing. And especially in Amsterdam, you don't necessarily know what are homeless people. And hear me out, and you can definitely see homeless. You can definitely differentiate a homeless person from like a beggar, so to speak. But sometimes it is a bit hard when people go like, "Oh, I'm sitting here with my dog," and then I go like, "Well, you can suck a fucking fat one," because what we had in the Netherlands, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I am, and let me know if you in a different country had the same issue. Like we had travelers from I believe Romania and stuff like that, like that part of the world that would come here and then start begging and then make fucking thousands of fucking euros, like legitimately. It's not even a joke. They would come in here and then they would beg in popular streets and then they would make fucking bank while not necessarily being homeless per se. So the police caught them and then there was like a law made that you weren't supposed to beg in popular shopping areas and stuff like that. And ever since then, it's like if you see somebody, you can call the police and then the police will take them away, which is very interesting. But I feel like in Amsterdam, where I live, we have lots of facilities for homeless people to live at and to sleep at. So much so that there are legitimately TV shows where they talk to homeless people and then homeless people just don't want to go to them, which is fucking weird in my opinion. But I guess they can do because they're their own people. But like, yeah, what? Going back to the question, I've gone on a fucking tirade and not even talked about the question really. The question asked by Loving Nature 412. How do you usually respond to a homeless person asking you for money? I will probably say, "Oh, I'm sorry. I don't have any cash on me. I'm so sorry." I feel like that is the obvious answer. Sometimes I feel really bad when I do have money, but I cannot trust you with the money. Like I don't know what you're gonna do with it. Like what the fuck are you gonna do with that money? Are you gonna buy alcohol? Are you gonna spend it in a weird place? Are you gonna go to the casino? I don't fucking know. Like there are so many questions that I have where I'm just like I am not certain what the situation is, so I'm just gonna try and get away from the situation as quickly as I can. And that is by just saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't have any cash on me," and then just walking off. I think that is the obvious answer for me here. So, going back to the question, loving nature for 1, 2. How do you usually respond to a homeless person asking for money? I probably say, I'm so sorry. I don't have any cash on me right now. I'm so sorry. Good luck though. And then just fucking walk off. Because more than that, I don't really feel comfortable doing. So, thank you for your question, loving nature. Moving on to the fourth question coming from the Ask Reddit subreddit, asked by user, oh no, Ghostface. And they ask, serious, what's a food that you hate the texture of no matter how many times you try it? For me, that is broccoli. I fucking hate it. The texture is awful. The people that decided that that was a good idea to make broccoli, you're a bunch of fucking morons. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Am I eating a fucking tree? What the fuck is going on? Like, the texture of broccoli is just so horrible to me. Where you take a bite and then all the fucking like the leaf tangles just go over your tongue and then hit you in the back of the throat and then it's like, it's absolutely disgusting. Like my grandma forces me to eat it and I will eat it and like I don't hate the taste anymore, but still the texture is terrible. For all the things that we could have created as a mankind, we decided to create fucking broccoli. The fucking thing that looks like a fucking tree and fucking tastes like a bush. Like, what the fuck? Who the fuck thought that was a good idea? So, the answer to you, oh no, Ghostface. What's a food that you hate the texture of, no matter how many times you tried it? And for me, that would be broccoli. Because it is an absolutely horrible fucking taste. It's such a weird fucking thing where it's just like, again, am I fucking eating a tree? Fucking tastes like broccoli? What the what? It's a bush. I'm fucking eating a bush. What the fuck? No, thank you. No fucking thank you. I'm trying to go through the comments and of this question, and I'm not really seeing anything that is like weird. I'm seeing like people saying like animal intestines, and it's just like, well, you should probably not be eating those to begin with. And then some people are saying beans, which, like, personally, I'm a very picky eater to begin with, so all those things don't really mean anything to me. And then people saying coconut. Coconut is a weird one to me because I really like the texture of coconut. And I like the taste of coconut. So to me, that is it's a weird one in that sense, but I can totally understand it because, of course, it has like the fibers of the coconut, like the pulp type thing, and I can understand why that would be a weird feeling in your mouth. Here, somebody says, Suvan Pan says, raisins, chewy pieces of grossness. I honestly really like raisins. I was one of those kids where you go out on like we call it Sint Maarten, which is basically like a Halloween type thing where you go past like the neighborhood and then you get raisins or you get candy, but like some people give you raisins. And that is one of those things where it's just like I personally like the taste of raisins. So I don't get that personally. But yeah, going back to the question asked by user Oh No Ghostface, what's a food texture that you hate the texture of, no matter how many times you've tried it? And for me, the answer would be broccoli because it is just absolutely disgusting. Like, what the fuck is the point of broccoli? It is absolutely disgusting. Again, looks like a tree, tastes like a bush, and it's just disgusting. And thank you for your question, though. Moving on to the final question of the Ask Reddit subreddit for today, coming from user Puzzleheaded, and he asks, "What anime is must-watch anime?" Right now, I would say Cyberpunk is must-watch anime. It is such a great interpretation of what Cyberpunk is supposed to be, or what it was supposed to be, I should say, because right now we are in this renaissance, I should say, of what Cyberpunk was, and they're doing very well. And the show really gave more life to the game, and that is very positive because we're gonna get more Cyberpunk because it is a very cool and interesting world to be in. Even though the first game didn't really, pan out the way that people thought it was going to pan out, but luckily, again, the TV show has reinvigorated the love for Cyberpunk and made people realize that, oh man, this world is actually really cool. So, we want to live in that world and see what the fuck is going on. And again, it's on Netflix. The quality is fantastic. The animation is fucking great. Studio Trigger doing it. I was not really a big I have never really heard of Studio Trigger because I'm not a big anime guy, but people that are very much into anime were just like, well, it's Studio Trigger. Studio Trigger does some fantastic work. So if you're gonna watch something, you should go watch Cyberpunk again because it is based on like a Western IP, so that's very interesting. And again, it's such a easily accessible. It's a very easily accessible anime as well. So I would say Cyberpunk right now. If you're gonna ask me like the all-time best anime to watch that I have seen, I would probably say Castlevania. Again, not again based on a thing, but like again based on like a video game. And Castlevania is just absolutely fantastic. It's really fucking good. I really liked it, even though I've never really played a Castlevania game. So by me liking it, I would say that most people are probably going to like it if you're like into the fantasy Dracula type stuff. It's really fucking cool. I also really like The Legend of Vox Machina, which is technically not an anime, but also kinda is because it is like made in the anime style. So that is definitely one that I would say go and check out. And then finally, the final anime I will fucking mention is Shaman King. I am a big fan of Shaman King and have been since I was very little. I still need to finish this season or like the last couple of episodes that they put up because what they did for Netflix, they did like a 60 episode season, whatever, and then they released like 20 episodes every time, and then I've stopped at the final drop that they did. At least I think that is the final drop that they did. So I need to go back to that, but I really like Shaman King. I just really like the concept of what it is. So going back to the question, asked by user puzzle-headed Flen951, and he asks, "What anime is must-watch anime?" And honestly, for me right now, it would be Cyberpunk Edge Runners. It is fucking cool, and it is such a fun interpretation of what Cyberpunk should have been at launch, but what it kind of turned into right now. Then I would say Castlevania is top-notch anime, and again, it's very easily accessible. Shaman King is really much up there for me. And then finally, The Legend of Vox Machina, even though it's not really anime, but also kind of is. So yeah, those are all my recommendations for anime. Thanks for your question. And now, moving on to the final question, coming from the Am I the Asshole subreddit, asked by user Fin22. And they ask, "Am I the asshole for sometimes hanging out in states of undress with my best friend's roommate? I'm pretty much a practical nudist, meaning that I love to wear as few clothes as practical. Naturally, naturally in social settings, I try to be more careful. My boyfriend and his roommate have a pretty sweet apartment downtown, so we spend most of the time there. He's really nice and a chill guy, and on days my boyfriend and I don't want to get intimate, we just hang out in the living room, drinking, smoking, and watching movies. Sometimes I end up just hanging out in a towel after a shower. I explicitly checked with his roommate that this was okay and he didn't mind. Unfortunately now, he has a new jealous girlfriend who doesn't hang out with us sometimes, but she still feels like she needs to police what I'm wearing in the apartment of my boyfriend. We got into a bit of a stupid text message exchange when she found out, and she's clearly jealous and insecure. It doesn't help her self-esteem, I guess, that times out of 10 people are gonna say I'm the hotter person. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder and all that. I'm not self-centered. It's purely a comfort thing. It's not remotely sexual for me, so I don't think I'm in the right holding my stance. Am I the asshole? So I think I'm in the right holding my stance. Am I the asshole? Well, this was a short one, but I would say that the answer is yes, you're the asshole. Like, you're practically naked in this house, and it's your boyfriend's house as well. I get that, but like, there's just this random dude, his roommate, that's just sitting there, and then he's just like looking at you while you're half naked. That's very interesting to me to begin with. But then if somebody asks you to be like, hey, like, I don't feel comfortable with you just wearing a towel on the couch with my boyfriend there. Could you please just put on a shirt or something? And then you're just saying like, fuck off. Basically, that's what you're saying. It's just like, and then you're going in your question, you're going, she's clearly jealous and insecure. And then you're going, I'm definitely the hotter person. Like, those are all things that you're clearly the asshole in this situation. Like, I don't really understand why you asking this question still, because you're definitely the fucking asshole. Like, just fucking cover up. Just wear something. Just put some clothing on. Just wear a long shirt or something. Like, at least wear something to make this situation less awkward. Because I guess that a roommate is just like, well, she's pretty and I guess my roommate is into her. I guess it's fine with me. So he's not gonna say anything. He's just looking at that shit. But like, having somebody actually just come up to you in all honesty and ask, hey, I don't feel comfortable with you being basically naked in front of my boyfriend. So could you please wear something to cover up a little bit? And you're just going, no, you're clearly jealous of me and insecure. And I'm definitely the hotter person because 9 out of 10 people would say so. So, no, I'm not going to do that. It makes you definitely seem like the fucking right asshole in this situation. So, going back to the question asked by user Fin22, am I the asshole for sometimes hanging out in states of undress with my boyfriend's roommate? And I would say yes. The answer would probably be no, not per se. But then when somebody asks you to cover up a little bit to just make the situation a little bit more comfortable for everybody else and you're saying no, that doesn't really bode well for you in the long term. So definitely the asshole. But thank you for your question, Fin22. And that is going to do it for me for this week. I hope you had a good time. And if you did, please leave a rating on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify, because both places give you the ability to leave a rating on this right here podcast, because that would help this podcast grow even bigger. So please do that. You can go to anchor.fm/didn't-ask-pod. Over here, you can find all the links this podcast is available on. You can find this podcast on Pocket Cast, on Podcast Addict, on Apple Podcast, on Spotify, on Amazon Podcast. You have a podcast service, it's probably on there. If it's not, please let me know by going to that anchor.fm website and clicking the message button on top of that website. Over here, you can get the ability to record a voice memo for me, just saying like, hey, this podcast isn't available on X platform. It would be lovely if you can get it on there, and then I will try my best to get it on there. You can use that button as well to ask me a personal question if you would like. You can then record your voice message, recording you asking the question, which I can then slice into this fucking podcast. If you don't want your voice to be heard and want to stay anonymous, just say it somewhere in your message, then I'll read your question out myself so I can still answer your question, but you can remain anonymous. Well, that's going to do it for me for this week. If you want to know what I'm doing in the meantime and in between time, you can go to track.tv. Over here, you can see all the movies and TV shows that I'm watching at the time, sometimes while I'm watching them, so you can keep up with what I'm doing, and you can maybe ask a question about that, because that would be fun. Okay, that's enough talking for me for this week. I hope you had a good time, and I hope to see you back next week. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.